Again, when we stopped last time, our buddy here, Moomin was talking to his sister, who said that she would fix the ants. And we don't know what that means. But while they were talking, Moomin Papa was pushing boulders off the cliff. Remember that? Down into the water? And tired but happy, because that gives him great satisfaction. Tired but happy, Moomin Papa walked home through the heather. Naturally, somewhere in the back of his mind, he knew that he would have to try again to make the lamp work at the top of the lighthouse. But there were still some hours left before dusk. And he had been rolling big stones, enormous ones, and every time one of them rolled down into the water, Moomin Mama had turned her head and watched from the garden. Moomin Papa decided to go around by the western point. That's the point where the island comes together to a tip. And he's going to go around on the western side. And on the leeward side, that's where the wind is, the fisherman, remember the fisherman? Kind of weird guy. Moomin Troll tried to talk to, and he wouldn't talk. And the family saw him when they were coming to the island, and he didn't talk, and he was kind of, one of those guys. He rowed past with his fishing rods in the bow of the boat. That's the front. And Moomin Papa had never heard that it was possible to get the fish to bite with the fishing pole so late in the year. July was the month for that, but this wasn't an ordinary fisherman. Perhaps he liked being by himself. Moomin Papa lifted his paw to wave, but he didn't. He wouldn't get an answer anyway. Moomin Papa climbed up the rocks and began to walk into the wind. Here the rocks were curved, and they looked like the backs of enormous animals walking side by side toward the sea. Wow. He had reached the pool before he caught sight of it. Okay, a little pool. He's discovered a little pool of water. The water in it was calm and dark, and it was oval in shape, looking like a great big eye. Moomin Papa was delighted. A real lake, a black pool, one of the most mysterious things one could find. From time to time, a little wave from the ocean found its way in from the sea. It slipped in over the threshold, that's like the doorway, shattering the mirror-like surface of the water for a moment, and then the pool became calm again, staring blankly up at the sky, the way an eyeball would. And Moomin Papa thought, it's deep down there. It must be very deep indeed. This island of mine is a complete world of its own. It has everything, and it's just the right size. How happy I feel. I've got the world in my paw. And Moomin Papa went back to the lighthouse as fast as he could. He wanted to show them all the black pool before they found it for themselves. Moomin Mama said, what a pity the pool isn't filled with rainwater. And Moomin Papa, gesticulating with his paws, no, it was made by the sea. Salt water. Great storms had flung the sea over the island and rolled stones round and round at the bottom until it has become terribly deep. And Moomin Mama suggested, perhaps there's some fish in it. Moomin Papa said, very possibly. But if there are any, they must be gigantic. Imagine a giant pike, a pike fish that has been down there for 100 years, just getting fatter and angrier the whole time. Little Mai, impressed, said, oh, that would be something. I'd like that. Perhaps I'll throw a line in and find out for myself. And Moomin Papa said firmly, don't go too near the edge. You must realize that it's a very dangerous spot. I shall make a very careful investigation, but just not at the moment. There's the jetty to think about, And then I must make an oven for smoking eel and pike, weighing more than 14 pounds. And I must put out the nets before it starts to rain. And Moomin Mama added in some sort of guttering for the roof. In a couple of days, we shall have no drinking water left. And Moomin Papa protectively said, "Don't worry, my dear. You'll get a gutter all right. Be patient, and I will do everything." The family went back toward the lighthouse, and Moomin Papa continued to talk about the gigantic pike fish. The wind blew gently through the heather, and the setting sun drenched the whole island in warm golden light. But behind them, the black pool lay sunk in shadow between the big rocks. Moomin Mama had finished cleaning up after Little Mai, and the trap door was now closed. As soon as he came in, Moomin Papa noticed the calendar, and he said, "Well, that's exactly what I need. Where did you find it? If I'm going to keep any sort of order on this island, I must know what day this is." "Today's Tuesday, I think." Moomin Papa picked up a pen and drew a large circle high up in the margin. That was the arrival circle. And then he made 2 small crosses underneath for Monday and Tuesday. And Moomin Troll asked, "Have you ever seen a seahorse? Are they as beautiful as the one in the calendar picture?" And Moomin Mama said, "Possibly, but I don't know. They do say that painters of pictures exaggerate." Moomin Troll nodded thoughtfully. What a pity it was that you couldn't tell from the picture whether the little seahorse had silver shoes or not. Remember that little seahorse he found? The sunset filled the room with gold, and in a little while it would turn red. Moomin Papa stood in the middle of the room, thinking. This was the time he ought to go up and light the lamp. But if he climbed the ladder, the others would know exactly what he was doing. And then he came down again, they would know he had not been able to make the lamp work. Why couldn't they keep out of the house until dusk and leave him in peace and try to light it? Sometimes there was something about family life that Moomin Papa wasn't too comfy with. His family wasn't sensitive enough at times like these, although they'd lived with him for so long. Moomin Papa did exactly what one always does at uncomfortable moments. He went and stood in the window with his back to the room. The marker for the nets lay on the windowsill. He had completely forgotten to put out the nets. That was important, very important. Moomin Papa felt a great sense of relief. He turned around and said, "We'll put the nets out tonight. They ought to be in the sea before sunset. Actually, we ought to put them out every night, now that we're living on an island." Moomin Troll and his father rowed out to sea with the nets. Moomin Papa said, "We must put them out in an arc from the east point. The west point belongs to the fishermen. It wouldn't be right to start fishing right under his very nose. Now, row slowly while I keep an eye on the bottom." The water began to get deeper in very gentle, sweeping terraces of sand, descending in the water like a broad, ceremonial staircase. Moomin Troll rowed toward the point over forests of seaweed that got darker and darker. And Moomin Papa shouted, "Stop! Go back a bit. The bottom's fine just here. We'll lay it out obliquely toward those rocks," obliquely being at an angle. "Slowly now." Slowly, he threw in the float with its little white pennant. It's like a plastic ball that's got a little flag on the top of it. He threw in the float with its little white pennant and dipped the net into the sea. It glided out slowly with long, even movements, drops of water shining in the mesh from which the nets were created. The corks rested on the surface for a moment, and then they saw them sink like a necklace of beads behind them. It was a very satisfying feeling, putting the net out. Mooma Papa sat down in the stern of the boat. It was a peaceful evening. The colors were beginning to grow pale and disappear in the dusk. But right over the thicket, remember the thicket? The sky was still quite red. They pulled the boat up the beach in silence and then walked home across the island. When they had got as far as the aspens, they heard a faint wailing sound coming over the water. Moomtrol stood still. Said Moomin Papa, I heard that noise yesterday too. It's a bird, I expect. Moomintroll looked out across the sea. He said, there's something sitting on that rock out there. And Moomin Papa said, that's a beacon, which is often a light on a rock out near shore. And Moomin Papa walked on. And Moomintroll thought, there was no beacon there yesterday. There was nothing there at all. And he stood and waited. Now, whatever that was sitting on the rock was now moving. Very, very slowly. It glided over the rock and was gone. It couldn't be the fisherman. He was short and thin. It was something else. Moomintroll pulled himself together and continued on his way home. He wouldn't say anything before he was certain. Anyway, Moomintroll hoped that he would never know what it was that sat out there wailing every evening. And here's a picture of them fishing. And there's Moomin Papa at the stern or the back of the boat. And you can see Moomintroll pulling on the net. And see the mesh of the net below the top line? It's beautiful, isn't it? Okay, we've got over 12 minutes on this tape, on this section, so I'm going to stop here. And so we can send this to you easily. Okay, see you soon. Bye.